Hello, everyone. Welcome to DigitalOcean Tech Talk. My name is Mohan Ram. I lead the go-to-market effort in the APAC region for DigitalOcean, and I will be your moderator for today. Very excited to have all of you join us for this edition of DigitalOcean Tech Talk. The DigitalOcean Tech Talk series is where we bring you insights from the cloud industry, the latest and the greatest of developer technologies, and also feature some really cool businesses that are leveraging cloud to build and serve amazing software for the world. So today, on today's edition, we have two esteemed speakers, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to them. So our speakers today are Chris Allen and Alexis Reyes. Chris is the co-founder and CEO of Red5 Pro. He's a professional software architect and engineer with more than 15 years of experience. He founded Infra Red5 in 2007, along with Rebecca Allen and Dominique. In the last few years, the company has launched Red5 Pro, a proprietary version that enables real-time streaming capabilities at a huge scale. Chris is also a leader in the open source community and has co-authored the Essential Guide to Open Source Flash, and he regularly presents at startup, tech, and interactive conferences around the world. Thank you for joining us, Chris. He will be joined by Alexis. Alexis, my colleague, is a senior solutions engineer at DigitalOcean. He comes with more than 10 years of data center experience. He's certified in Azure, AWS, VMware, and Red Hat, and he focuses on understanding customers' business, their technology, how they both align, and also helps customers in their journey toward the cloud. Thank you for joining us, Alexis.
Pleasure to be here.
Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping rules. I'm sure all of you are already on mute, but if you aren't and have the capability to mute yourself, we would really appreciate if you could do that. Also, the chat window is open. So now and during the webinar, please feel free to put in your questions there. Myself and my colleague, Cynthia, will be moderating the chat window, and we'll be posing some of your questions to our speakers at the end of the webinar. We will have Chris go first and speak about some of the Red5 journey, and followed by Alexis, and then we will open it up for Q&A. On this slide, you will see that our topic for today's Tech Talk is enabling new possibilities for real-time scalable video streaming. And as part of the agenda, Chris will speak to some of the key trends they are seeing in the video streaming industry and the impact that real-time video is having on our end user experiences, and also how you can deploy a highly scalable live video streaming system using Red5 Pro. Chris will also speak to his experience of what kinds of apps are possible to be built on that can leverage real-time video. And finally, why is DigitalOcean a great partner and a solution to consider if you are deploying real-time video? And with that, it's now my pleasure to hand it over to Chris. Chris, over to you.
I just realized I was muted while trying to talk to you guys. I was saying that my webcam is unfortunately not working with this GoToMeeting software. So, and I was gonna show you guys how our software actually works with this. So, first and foremost, our company is a developer-first streaming platform where we're trying to build tools for developers to be able to build live real-time video streaming apps. And one of the biggest problems in our industry with live video streaming is the latency. And the latency is the time it takes to capture a video on one side and for somebody else to see it on the other. And most video streaming today, you're going to experience anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds of latency on most typical broadcasts, but even the ones that are optimized and we're trying to solve for this now, they're measured in seconds. And then of course the real-time kind of communication software, sort of like what we're using with GoToMeeting here and others, they don't really scale well out to millions of concurrent viewers. So the way we're handling this, so we've got a solution that can actually get about 500 milliseconds or less in latency for the live stream. And we can scale it out using cloud platforms such as DigitalOcean to scale out to millions of concurrent viewers. And just quickly, the typical approach to solving latency in a live stream is usually by trying to take the existing HTTP solutions and then just kind of optimizing those. And there's a technique called chunk transfer, where you start streaming the bits as soon as they're available, but it's using an HTTP polling mechanism, going out, requesting a set of packets, and then they come back to you. And that's never going to have, true real-time, latency. But there is a big advantage with this, is that you can actually use it on existing CDN infrastructure. It is easy to set up because it's just like you're scaling any kind of HTTP-based solution. And then the disadvantage of doing this is you're getting a latency measuring in seconds and TCP-based system. Our approach, we're actually taking WebRTC. WebRTC was originally designed as a peer-to-peer protocol built into the browsers to be able to stream from point A to point B and maybe add a few users to it to kind of create video conferencing type solutions. We've actually created a solution that does this on the server side, creates peer connections with server endpoints such as droplets on DigitalOcean, and allows us to scale it out with a big cluster. So the advantages are really quite a few. One, it's UDP based, so it's incredibly efficient and fast and allows us to drop packets, which is really a great thing to do for video streaming. We can hit latencies anywhere from 150 milliseconds up to about 500 across the world. There is a mechanism for bypassing firewalls, and it can fail over to TCP if it absolutely needs to. It's secure. It's 100% encrypted, and it's supported on almost all browsers at this point. And we are making it pretty easy to use because we have an HTML5 SDK as well as native SDKs for iOS and Android. And then one of the things I'm going to get into in a bit here too is the fact that we're able to scale it up and down the infrastructure based on load, and we're doing that using Cloud API. The big disadvantages of our approach, of course, is you can't just use a CDN, but with DigitalOcean's incredible pricing on data transfer, we're actually beating the prices of almost every CDN out there, and we're getting the latency much lower. But it was also, this is kind of a weird one. It is difficult to implement, but luckily we've done that for you. So if you end up using our stuff, we've kind of taken care of that part. So we've done some tests most recently, testing from New York to Paris and back, and we were getting about 180 milliseconds across the internet. And the same with hitting DigitalOcean's data center in Amsterdam, we get similar results. And as I mentioned, the way we're doing this is with WebRTC. WebRTC is an incredibly complex set of protocols. It's actually not even just one protocol; it's just like a full technology stack. There's the kind of the computer side of it, or the browser side of it, gives you access to all this stuff, the video codec to encode and decode the video, access to cameras and mics and speakers. It implements an echo cancellation, also encoding with audio and decoding. And then it's transporting everything over SRTP. It's got this ICE piece for negotiating firewalls. And then, it gives you this API layer that you're able to access all of this stuff in JavaScript. Sorry, somebody decided to drive by with a really loud truck. The advantages of working from home. And so we've also abstracted it even further to make this a lot easier through the Red5 Pro SDK. I'm not going to get into all of this, but our endpoint acts as a piece of this with the client. The way to get access to the media components is through this API and JavaScript, or get user media. And then once you've accessed that, in order to stream, you need to do what is called signaling. So we have a component in our architecture that does this called the Stream Manager. It does secure WebSockets on this side, and then through the back end on DigitalOcean, it'll hit one of the edge nodes. Once that's established and you've traded the information back and forth, then it becomes a peer-to-peer session directly with that edge. And this communication is over UDP. It figures out how to navigate the firewall through ICE, exchanges TLS keys over datagram, and then starts streaming the video. So this is an example of it coming this way, but this could easily be going the other way towards an origin. And I'll explain what the Stream Manager does and the edge, and you'll see an origin soon and all of this. The other thing that's going on at the same time with WebRTC is there's an RTCP channel, which is this basically messaging channel, which is giving information in real time back and forth between the peers. So in this case, it's showing an REMB message going from this peer to this other peer. And REMB is like a recommended bandwidth. So it's just telling it shift up or shift down because I can't keep up, et cetera. And so we actually leverage this for our ABR, adaptive bitrate streaming support. Now, a lot of people will tell you that WebRTC doesn't scale. And that's absolutely true if you look at it from a very conventional standpoint. But we didn't do that. We decided we're going to figure out how to make this work. And the way we did that is by clustering server nodes or virtual instances that run on cloud. So this is the basic setup. Publishers publish into origin nodes, which in the when deployed on DigitalOcean, these are droplets, right? And then these get pushed out to edges, and the subscribers are subscribing or getting the video from the edges. And as you can imagine, this could start to scale out, but you're going to run out of limitations of how many connections an origin can handle. So the way we deal with that to get into the millions of concurrent viewers, we stick a relay in the middle, and then that gives us exponentially more edges than what you could fit on one single origin. So auto scaling is also another key component of this. We could tap into the cloud network and spin up and spin down networks using their API. We actually use Terraform for this, so it kind of gives us a broad range of cloud platforms we can target. Terraform, our Terraform implementation, the first one we did was for DigitalOcean, but really you can set thresholds within the Stream Manager to scale up or scale down as needed, depending on the load and the number of videos going out and in. And this is showing scaling out edges, but you can also scale origins. And this also has an event API where you can schedule things into the future. So if you know you're going to have a huge event in the near future, you can provision that many nodes to deal with it. If anybody here has worked with WebRTC, you'll know that you have to deal with SSL certs. It's absolutely required to be secure in the browser in order to connect to it. And so the conventional approach would be to install SSL certs on every single node in the cluster and then assign a domain to each of them. But that becomes really unwieldy when these can pop off and on whenever you want. So our approach is actually to proxy all of this, keep the SSL cert on the Stream Manager, and then it allows you to proxy to an unsecured connection on the origin side while keeping the secure connection from the browser clients. We can get into more details on this, and I can answer questions later if need be. One thing to note too is usually Stream Managers are load balanced, so you can have multiples of these and they all share a single data store. And so in that case, you would install the SSL cert on the actual load balancer, and which are pointing to these Stream Managers. And then, this is just another view of that flow. It's communicating back and forth between this origin server, secure here, unsecure here over the backbone of the cloud network. And then once it makes that establishment, then it connects to the peer, and then you're able to do ICE negotiation here. And once that ICE negotiation, which we can talk about an ICE server, sometimes it's needed, stun or return, but ultimately the video starts flowing direct to that origin. Our system also has a component called the Cauldron or our transcoder node, which can generate multiple bit rates. If you remember, I was showing you this REMB message. Basically, that means we can shift to different bit rates very easily in a live stream, depending on the capabilities of that client's network, which is an incredibly important feature to keep things going in real time. So one of the cool things about our cloud-based system is it uses Terraform, but more importantly, we can actually tap into, so if DigitalOcean doesn't have coverage where you're looking for, such as in the Middle East or something like that, then we can actually tap into and use that. And probably more interesting would be that we can tap into private clouds as well. And the way we do this is through a Terraform provider. The Terraform scripts actually call whatever provider you're looking for. DigitalOcean is our preferred one, but if you need to use something else, then by all means. And that's really it for the kind of overview of the product. I think what I wanted to do is give you guys a bit of a demo, bring Alexis into this as well, so that we can then talk a bit about the use cases, because Mohan promised that I would be telling you guys about that and what we're seeing in the industry right now. And probably the biggest thing is COVID-19 is accelerating a lot of what people were thinking of doing and had it on their roadmap for a long time, and now it's becoming an absolute necessity. So first and foremost, I've got Alexis. Can you hear me, by the way? Just wonder if you're
there.
I
can hear you. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah. So I was going to have you guys actually subscribe to a live stream I'm doing. So this is a DigitalOcean droplet. Sorry, this is a setup on DigitalOcean in the New York City region. And I'm publishing from Cape Cod in Massachusetts right now. So I'm going to start this stream up. So whenever you install our server, you'll get basically this same interface, and allows you to do these things. You can open up, subscribe window, and you can see the video here. And I'm probably going to get a nasty echo in my AirPods here. All right, there we go. So you can see the kind of relative latency. I don't know how well the screen capture is doing for this right now, but you can see it's pretty darn quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this link out to you guys. Let me see if I can find a chat in this interface. Chat. Is it going to allow me to post to everyone? No, just to organizers and panelists. I do not have the permission to do so. So Cynthia, if you don't mind sending that out to the whole group, and then you guys can watch my stream for a little bit while Alexis and I talk a bit about, what kind of use cases we're seeing using Red5 Pro on DigitalOcean. So a lot of the industries that we kind of target are these anybody basically who needs live video streaming. But what we're starting to see a lot of are like live concerts, live webinar type software like this. I was joking that we should probably be using one that's actually running on DigitalOcean, so maybe that would be happening quite soon. And also looking at surveillance type applications. We have a lot of live drone streaming, lots of people using it with IoT devices. And it's just across the board. So has anybody been able to see this? I can't see your chat for some reason. I don't know why that is in this interface. I guess I'm not going to get any feedback, so I'm going to just have to assume that people are watching this.
See it, Chris. Yeah, I can see it. I'm actually connected through my phone, so I can see it through my phone.
All right, cool.
So you're there.
Yeah. I guess what we can show you is some of the examples here. So I'm going to kill this stream. Hopefully you guys got to see that.
Yeah. So Chris,
yeah,
folks have been telling us that they are able to see. So go ahead.
Okay, good. All right. And hopefully they see that it's kind of relatively, like my voice should have been pretty much in sync with the video, although it's like whatever Cisco is implementing is probably a bit different. I'm actually curious, what was the relative latency like? Was my voice coming after the video or before it? All right, well, anyway, so we'll find out. Maybe Mohan can report back. All right, so our SDKs, we actually have a bunch of examples up on GitHub, and I would encourage you guys to go and check these out. And this entire project here, this is the HTML5 SDK, actually resides on this server. So if we go back here, you can access it here through this interface, and then you can start trying out all the different things, and then all the code for each of these and instructions on how to use it are all out here. So I was going to show a quick conference example. Let's see if we can get Alexis and Mohan to join this. So let's just navigate over to the conference example. All right, so I'm going to just join here. We give these guys the link. There you go. And then I can also join from my phone as well. All right, there we go. So there's Alexis hanging out from his phone. And I will be joining from this phone as well, just so you can see another one. And so then there's a
yeah, I lowered the volume on mine.
that was smart to do that ahead of time. And of course, I'm hearing my echo back, so I'm going to kill the audio here. Oh, actually, I'm getting it from my phone, so I got to kill that one too. There you go. But anyway, so you can start putting these pieces together. All the code for it is here. It's actually a lot of fun to kind of play with. You can get up and running. There's a 30-day trial to allow you to play with this. You can deploy on DigitalOcean. We've got full-on instructions for doing that as well. So I think, you know, in order to kind of move along, I think it would be good to get Alexis to have you talk about how we're using this on DigitalOcean, how you guys are supporting us. And then, you know, we're kind of switching stuff around, but I think it's going to be more natural for us to answer questions and maybe just talk about industry trends as kind of the latter part of this, if you're good with that.
Yeah, I'm cool. So do you want me to start the slides, or do you want to go straight to Q&A?
Yeah. No, let's start the slides. Let me see if I can find that window again.
Chris, while you find the slides, just a quick announcement to our attendees. Just keep the questions coming. I think we're getting some really good questions. So there's the chat window. So keep the questions coming.
And I tell you what, I'll start broadcasting again, just so you can kind of check this out as we're talking. It should be the same link because I just published on the same exact stream again. So if you guys use that, you can check it out, and then you can actually see me. Otherwise, you can't see me because for some reason WebEx does not, or whatever this one is, doesn't work. All right, take it away, Alexis.
All right, cool. Yeah, thank you, Chris. So I have had the privilege of being the dedicated solution engineer for Red5 Pro. I chat with Chris and his team almost every day, if not every day. We support Red5 Pro in many different ways, right? One of them being direct communication. We love Slack, and we have seen that when troubleshooting or answering questions, Slack enables us to work together in harmony. It's just a great tool. During the POC process of a new prospect, we share information back and forth, details of the customer's workloads. That enables us to close deals faster. We share everything about the deal diagrams, customer-specific questions. Red5 Pro, as a large partner of DigitalOcean, is provided with these tools. Partners like Red5 Pro also get access to events, marketing content, webinars like the one we're doing now. We also have a great support team that is available 24/7, 365. They are an extra layer of support and provide them with peace of mind. They provide assistance to Red5 Pro when we're not on Slack. Next slide. So Red5 Pro leverages DigitalOcean for many different services, the main service being compute. Our CPU optimized droplets are great for streaming services. They're optimal for transcoding and batch processing, but not just streaming, right? We have seen customers take advantage of our CPU optimized droplets for CI/CD, machine learning, and ad serving as well. Red5 Pro uses our API to scale their workloads. So they leverage Terraform to automate scaling when new subscribers are joining the live stream. Red5 Pro uses also our command line tool, Doctal, for quick tasks as well. If you're a DigitalOcean customer and have not used this tool, I highly recommend it. We'll share out a link afterwards, but it's called Doctal. So it's our command line interface that communicates with our API. Red5 Pro has done a really great job at integrating with DigitalOcean. They use our load balancers, our managed databases to service our customers' streaming requirements. They have even built-in functionality to store Terraform states inside of within Postgres databases. Red5 Pro leverages Spaces or object storage for video on demand. They also use our VPC, which we recently launched. And if you're not familiar with our VPC networks provide a more secure connection between resources within the network. It's inaccessible from the public internet or other VPC networks for that matter. Traffic within the VPC network doesn't count against your bandwidth. It keeps your stream secure. So VPC is available also at no costs, and it's available within all of our regions. With these tools, Red5 Pro enables customers to stream low latency content at scale. DigitalOcean provides the infrastructure to enable them. So here's an overview of Red5 Pro's architecture on DigitalOcean. This architecture enables customers to serve live content at scale while also achieving low latency. Think live sports events, conferences, game streaming. If you look at this diagram from left to right, you will see that they're leveraging our load balancer to terminate SSL and forward HTTPS requests over to the stream managers. The stream managers are in charge of creating and deleting instances. They also coordinate between the broadcasters and subscribers. The origin nodes are in charge of accepting the broadcast. The relay servers within this diagram are recommended for use cases of one or a few broadcasters to many subscribers. They're basically repeaters which boost the signal of the broadcast. And finally, the edge nodes accept subscribers. So while we were communicating and showing off the demo, you would have seen that you were most probably connecting to an X device within this architecture. And the clients can be anything that supports HTML5, and Red5 Pro also supports native SDKs for Android as well as iOS. If you're interested in building your own diagram very similar to this one, we have a diagram kit with these sets of icons that we can share out if you're interested in diagramming your own workloads on DigitalOcean. All right, so the question of the hour, why bandwidth intensive customers choose DO? And it's simple, right? We have great bandwidth pricing. We provide our customers with a reliable, cost-effective network. Our smallest $5 droplet provides 1 terabyte of free bandwidth that is pooled. The more machines you provision, the more free bandwidth you get. Our largest machines get around 9 to 10 terabytes of free bandwidth, and we don't charge for inbound. So the savings are incredible when you're thinking about large-scale streaming or bandwidth utilization. Simplicity and transparency is key, right? DigitalOcean's bandwidth pricing is the same across all regions. That's not the same with other cloud providers. They charge different bandwidth pricing depending on which region. With DigitalOcean, that's not the case. Our bandwidth pricing is the same. We charge 1 cent per gig all regions, and that's it. Next slide.
You mind if I just make a point about this too? This 1 cent per gigabyte price is really, really good, especially when you look at other streaming providers, such as CDNs. If you look at CloudFront, for example, not to pick on AWS, but they're just one of many that does about the same. They start at like 8 cents per gigabyte for HLS streaming, which is just going to be high latency. And the fact that together we're able to get the latency down to real time and scale it, and then charge this incredible price, that's what makes it so compelling. So I just thought it was really important to point that out from a streaming perspective.
Thanks. Yeah, so although we have seen great success with streaming companies and the types of workloads that they run, we provide tools to build your dreams. So whether that is databases, storage, networking, DigitalOcean provides a simple and elegant approach to these products. Simple products that are backed by long hours of user stories, research, and hard work. No, it's not simple to build simple products, right? Next slide. Right. We also provide many developer tools to enable you to automate your workload and grow within DigitalOcean. So whether your favorite tools are Terraform or Pulumi, or even just connecting directly into our SDKs and managing and connecting to our API, we provide you with these tools to build your application. And yeah, that's it for me. So before we get into Q&A, I would like to just share a quick quote from Chris himself. And yeah, we can get started with the Q&A.
That's great. So I'm going to read a couple of questions that have come in on chat. So we have close to 7 to 8, and I think it's good. I think we have sufficient time to address some of these questions. The first question is for Chris from Justice. So Justice says, currently I'm a Big Blue Button developer and open source video conferencing. I want to know what capacity can handle 2,000 concurrent users.
Yeah, so we're familiar with Big Blue Button, and we've known those guys for a while because they were original kind of Red5 users. It's a really great product. I guess the question is, how can you take a Big Blue Button conference and then scale it out for more than 2,000 users or 2,000 even? So what you could do is probably just take an RTMP stream from Big Blue Button that's kind of pulling all of this together, and then get those into one of the Red5 origins deployed on DigitalOcean. And then you would have a cluster deployed there so that then you have multiple edges, which then can feed that out to all the end users. And just to give you an idea of kind of the capacity on one of the 2 CPU instance types, I mean, that sounds really redundant, but the V2 CPU, is that what it's called, Alexis? That droplet type?
The PCPU.
Yeah, it can handle about 200 concurrent 1080p streams out on WebRTC. So to hit 2,000, if you're going to use that droplet size, that would take 10 of those edges to do that. Now the 8 CPU model it doesn't quite get you 4 times as much, but you're getting probably maybe 6 or 7. So that's also an option too. You can deploy more powerful droplets to be able to do this, require less nodes. And yeah, so that's kind of a balancing act you have to play. Of course, the good thing about using the bigger droplet sizes, they give you more terabyte credits for transfer, so it might save you on bandwidth too. So there's like all these kind of ways you're going to balance it out. But from a technical standpoint, you would just pull in the RTMP streams from Big Blue Button and then just feed it into our system to scale it.
Perfect. Yudhishthir asked a couple of questions. One about special pricing for DigitalOcean for high bandwidth applications. Alexis, I think you addressed that, but do you also want to kind of speak to it and also mention about the bandwidth calculator that people could potentially use?
Yeah, so we have a link out that we can share that shows the bandwidth. It's basically like a bandwidth calculator on DigitalOcean that it will show you, depending on which droplets you use, how much bandwidth you're going to get. So I'm going to post it here, and then it can be reshared. It's a community tool.
Yeah, Chris, I think this one's for you.
And I would also just add to that too. If people really want to, if they're looking to scale something out, we can also work with them. We have our own kind of spreadsheet that does these calculations. I know Alexis has seen a few of these for some of these larger customers, where we can scale out and figure out how many transcoders you need, how many origins, how many edges, how many relays. And then based on all of that, the bandwidth usage, we can help calculate that for you guys too, and what the credits you get with running those droplet types. So, and then you'll also know our cost. So that's also good to know.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I think a whole lot of our attendees today are users of video streaming in some way, and some Red5 customers and DigitalOcean customers. So we appreciate that. Chris, I think this one's for you. What about Android and iOS SDK support? So we can integrate this using the native players, or does it have to be web-based?
No, so we have native SDK. So if I showed you that github.com/Red5 Pro, we also have iOS SDKs, and then all the same exact examples. So like that conference example you saw, it's in here somewhere, along with, but I mean, you can see there's a ton of stuff in here, and it's a full-fledged SDK in iOS and Android as well that allows you to do all of the same things. And actually, using our iOS and Android SDKs actually creates, it allows you to have more capacity on the server side, so you're paying for it less. And the reason for that is we actually don't use WebRTC for the mobile SDK. We actually use RTSP, which has the same transport protocol, but the signaling is a lot simpler. So the server-side logic is quite a bit cheaper.
Alexis, I think this one's for you. In video streaming system, do people normally use object storage instead of block storage? Is object storage implementation possible for on-prem data center, or is it typically implemented by a cloud provider?
So typically it's implemented by a cloud provider, right? There are services out there like Minio and stuff that you can potentially leverage on-premise, but the cloud providers are the ones that offer typically a service. So we offer it, right? Spaces is and actually an S3 compatible object store. And for video on demand, you would typically use Spaces.
I was going to say, we have documentation on using Spaces. So when you do a live stream, you can always record it. Like if I click this, had I wanted to record myself, I could have. And then that can be configured to upload to Spaces too. And all that documentation on how to do it is right here on our site. So.
Chris, this one's for you. How do we control streaming frames or control quality overall? And there's another question which says, how can we adjust the bitrate?
Yeah, so in that diagram that I showed you guys, let's see if I can. We've got a way to actually transcode all the streams. So what you can do is take the stream that's coming in like this, feed it to the cauldron endpoint or the transcoder, and then it can generate the multiple bit rates and the different qualities. So of course it can only be as high quality as it's sending out. Right now I'm actually sending a pretty low quality stream. I think it's 640 by 480. I didn't want to push my luck with sharing my screen at the same time. But based on that, then it can generate multiple bit rates. And then based on these REMB messages coming back and forth from the clients, it can shift to the closest one without going over. And then that's how we kind of control the bandwidth. In terms of controlling it on the servers, I mean, on the publisher side, if you're using WebRTC, there's actually media constraints you can use to actually set your, what bit rate you want to use and everything else. Like on this one, we actually have a, where's that GitHub? Too many things open here. You can actually we have a 1080p example right here where it shows you how to actually adjust the bit rate. So you can basically, in your user media request, you can actually set what's ideal and it'll try to pick that. And then so this allows you to get the higher resolution stream.
Alexis, I think this one's for you. Can we auto-scale the load balancer setup? They ask because while live streaming, the nodes could get automatically on when heavy user requests come in, and while there's lower traffic, it can be stopped. Yeah,
so in order to auto-scale the load balancers, we don't have the ability to do that natively. You would have to build it out on your own. So you would have to, let's say, use HA proxy and then potentially leverage Terraform to provision out the load balancers, and then have some sort of, for example, leveraging Cloudflare's global load balancing to load balance those load balancers. But yeah, to answer your question, at this time, we don't support auto scaling on our load balancer.
I can tell you it's one of our main requests to these guys. So yeah, I think they're probably working on
it. A lot.
Right. Chris, this one's for you. Is there any plan to support SRT as an alternative to WebRTC?
Yeah, I don't know who asked this, but it's almost like a setup. We just released a beta of SRT ingest today. So yes, if you guys want access to that, you can sign up for the trial, and I think it's accessible now. I don't know if the blog post or the documentation is up yet, but it should be up any minute now. And yeah, we've done a lot of testing with Haivision, who are the guys who created it. So we know it works with the Makito encoders. It's working well with Videon encoders as well, and a variety of other ones. So it's exciting stuff.
Got it. Next question is, for a professional production, how is the video from, let's say, a Blackmagic card captured and sent over the server via WebRTC? I read about the RTMP upload, but that will increase latency.
Yeah, so RTMP actually doesn't increase it that much. In fact, we were doing tests with Videon, is a hardware encoder. They have an RTMP ingest. They were getting, I think it was anywhere from 150 milliseconds to about 280 milliseconds using RTMP as the ingest. So as long as your connection is good and the TCP connection is good, the RTMP, at least on our system, doesn't add a lot of latency. So that's one thing to keep in mind. SRT is also super helpful from a hardware standpoint. But if you wanted to use a Blackmagic card and get it to stream from here, you can see if I open up a new one of these, you can see here I'm able to actually select which device I want. So if I had a Blackmagic card in here, it would be another device available here. This is in the JavaScript API, so you can create an interface like this and be able to switch between them just like that. So it's all available in the JavaScript API. You just got to make sure it's available as a webcam, and then all of a sudden you've got another source. Alternatively, you could maybe compile your own WebRTC implementation using the Google libraries, but that would be a real pain. I think this would be much easier.
There was another question about the difference between Red5 Pro WebRTC and WebRTC for video calling. Does Red5 Pro support video calling?
Yes. In fact, we kind of showed that little conferencing app. Probably the most interesting thing we're seeing are kind of hybrid apps where we've got, one main presenter and then they have several people coming back into it. We're seeing this a lot in distance education, webinar type things, where it's almost like hybrid apps. They're not really conferencing and they're not really broadcast either. They're just kind of like these things that are kind of new experiences. And I think that's what's most exciting. Our system, because the latency is so low, even at huge scale, it allows you to do things that wouldn't have been possible before. So we actually see the lines between the two use cases actually blurring because of what we're doing right now.
Also, what are some of the top streaming use cases that you most see, Chris?
Well, prior to the COVID outbreak and what everybody's dealing with now, working from home, the biggest use cases were kind of in those that they absolutely needed it. So there was a lot of gambling use cases, horse racing, live auctions. Live auctions is a big one. I mean, we have probably 30 or 40 different customers who use it for live auctions, because you can imagine you want to be bidding on an item, you got to see the same thing that everybody else is, even if they're at the venue. And any kind of latency is really problematic with that use case. And then there's these kind of like HQ trivia style games where it's kind of entertainment based stuff where the latency is really critical for that. But now with everybody being stuck at home, with working from home and being isolated like this, we're starting to see a demand for all kinds of really new, unique experiences. Co-watching of live sports, which is a really interesting one, right? Where we could all be kind of hanging out together in almost like our own Zoom type chat, right? But we're also watching the stream together, everything's synchronized. We're seeing that one live esports applications. all kinds of crazy, interesting stuff. I mean, live concerts as well. We haven't quite got the latency down low enough that musicians can jam live together. Not yet, anyway. That's going to take some really tricky kind of synchronization stuff and offsets and the timestamps. But I think it's doable, and it's something that'll probably be coming in the future. But there's just all kinds of really cool new use cases that are just getting accelerated. A lot of companies had these like features on their roadmap, and they were going to get to them eventually. But now they're like, okay, now this is moved up. This is top priority, and we're going for it. So, yeah, it's very exciting. I guess it's one of the positives of this terrible outbreak, you know. So.
Yeah. You mentioned COVID, and we can't have this conversation without bringing that up, right? Has there been any impact on your business other than what you're seeing in terms of use cases?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're having a hard time keeping up, and in fact, if any of you guys want jobs, you should hit me up because we're hiring both on the sales side, developer side, and kind of support, account management. We're actually looking for a really good account manager. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and it's a good crazy. Like I said, I think we're actually connecting people in a way that wasn't possible before, and it's exciting stuff. And I think what's happening is now that kind of this, everybody's now used Zoom. Now they kind of have an idea what it's like. Whereas before it was only, you know, tech workers and stuff like that who worked from home that knew how to use these tools. And now, you know, even your grandma knows how to do it. And so I think that's having a huge impact on the culture in general, just human nature. But they're expecting these kind of real-time interactive experiences.
Got it. That's great. Alexis, this one's for you. Given that you're working, you have worked with multiple, customers like Red5 who are building for real-time video and other high bandwidth applications, including gaming and edtech and all of that. Are there general best practices that you would recommend for, like, let's say, a CTO at a startup or solution engineers like yourself, when they set out to build an architecture that can support high bandwidth applications?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is to obviously, test out the load and bench test your stream. For example, Red5, Chris and the Red5 Pro team, they use Bees, I think, is the tool, and they use that in order to test.
We actually took this project from the Chicago Tribune, which is pretty cool. It's got to be the coolest name for a project ever. It's called Bees with Machine Guns, right? And so we've taken this project, which was intended for hammering a website with HTTP requests, and we've added RTMP, RTSP, and WebRTC so that we can actually create load and then test and like basically hammer the DigitalOcean servers. We've found all kinds of fun things by doing this, and so it's made us way more prepared. I think it's actually helped out the DigitalOcean team quite a bit, finding some of the bottlenecks in their system, and it's made their platform even stronger too. So yeah, but this is all open source. All the code for this is available. If you guys want to take a look at it. The RTCB actually just wraps a Chromium instance and allows us to like fire up a ton of browser instances, which then use WebRTC to subscribe to the streams. So
yeah, so in regards to the main question, that's one of the things that just stress test. Make sure that you're testing your application before you produce an event. If you're familiar with Terraform or Ansible or any of those tools, make sure that you can automate as much as possible so that it's repeatable. So if you deploy an event and you tear down the event, you want to be able to recreate it once a new event comes back in. And tools like Terraform and our API allow you to do that really quick.
Mm-hmm. Alexis, I think this one's for you. Can I have my app server spawned across regions? Would VPC help with that? So
right now our VPC does not span regions. So VPC and NYC1 stays within NYC1. We are looking into it, but at this time it's not possible. But you will need to look at maybe potentially leveraging like a global DNS service that will allow you to have point your application into 2 regions, and then if there's a database, you would need to also make sure that your databases are synchronized. But right now, the VPC does not span across multiple regions.
Chris, I think this one's for you. There is one of the attendees who wants to provide a similar service to their clients for their live lecturing in classrooms. And I think they use Big Blue Button, but they believe it needs very heavy servers to run, and which might be very expensive. How can Red5 Pro help them in their use case?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to that. I think it'd probably be worth just getting on a call and discussing the workflow, because a lot of ways to integrate it. In terms of optimizing it and make it work better, I mean, certainly deploying on DigitalOcean by its very self is going to save a ton of money over doing something like AWS. But yeah, I mean, there's ways to optimize it too. I would really need to know more about the workflow. What part are they trying to scale? Are they trying to scale out basically the teacher's live stream, or are they actually looking at all the endpoints? I think what Big Blue Button has done really well is kind of create the nice user interface piece of this. And without like stripping that out and having to rewrite that all from scratch, you know, it's going to require a bigger conversation, I guess. I don't want to give misinformation, you know.
Yeah. I think finally we wanted to ask you this question, Chris. You've used a lot of other cloud providers. Is there something that you particularly enjoy working with DigitalOcean, and what has generally been your experience overall? I think you've spoken to some parts of that already, but if there's something that you would like to speak to attendees who are considering different clouds and how DigitalOcean has been helpful in your use case.
Yeah, well, I mean, we support a lot of different cloud providers, and you know, it's mandatory to support AWS, right? There's no question about that. That's kind of like the default. I think the biggest thing beyond the price and the performance of the DigitalOcean, I mean, there's also pretty good global coverage. I mean, you guys have really good world presence. You know what I mean? But beyond that, it's the team. I think you guys have been really good to work with. I mean, Aaron from your side, who kind of heads up biz dev, is like, he's an animal. He's relentless. He's really good about that stuff and makes sure that stuff happens. Alexis, and you know, this, you know, tech support over there is great. You know, and Mohan, you're a fun guy to hang out with too. So there's that too. I think, you know, DigitalOcean really has a very inclusive culture. Like they're very welcoming, a lot of diversity on the team, and like it's just a really cool place. I mean, I think what you guys have built is really incredible. So I think you know, it's kind of a cliche to say it, but you know, businesses are actually just groups of people. Right, and if you have good people to work with, that makes all the difference. I don't care how good the technology is. If you're a bunch of jerks, it's going to be painful. So,
Chris, if you could move to the next slide on your deck. The next one, yes. For those of you who'd like to, you know, understand more and get in touch with our team to understand for your specific use cases how you could potentially leverage DigitalOcean, that would be the link for you to fill out. It would help us understand a little bit about your use case, and then our team can schedule some time with you. Our solutions engineer will get in touch with you to kind of schedule some time to understand your specific use case and how can we help you with that. I think we're always looking to enable businesses, and particularly given the COVID situation, we're seeing a lot of high bandwidth use cases being built on DigitalOcean, and we want to see how we can partner with you on that. Also, Chris, there were a couple of people who were asking for your email ID. If you could just put it on the chat window, and Cynthia will share it out if people want to schedule time with you.
Yeah, I think probably the best, just so that, because this thing is being recorded, I'm just going to say info@red5pro.com.
Yeah.
But I bet you guys can guess my email pretty quickly. But yeah, just it's actually better if you send to that account, because then it won't get bogged down on my 500 unread emails, which are always plaguing me. and then our team we'll get back to you and get on a call with you for sure.
Yeah. That's great. And yeah, if you can also fill out this form, we'll be happy to, if there is a specific Red5 use case, we'll be happy to include the Red5 team and ensure we can get on a joint call with you there, right? So do.co/contact-us, that's the link for you to fill out if you're interested in getting on a call with our team to understand more on how we can partner for your specific use case. With that, I think we're pretty much at the end of it. There's one other slide, I think, if people want to follow more updates from DigitalOcean, they can subscribe to one of our social channels, LinkedIn, Twitter. So we plan to do a lot more of these tech talks in the future, bringing you very exciting use cases like Red5 Pro. So do ensure you're kind of subscribed to our webinars emails, and also the recording of this webinar will be made available to all of you on email. If you've RSVP'd, an email will be sent to you with the recording. Also, this will be available on DigitalOcean's YouTube channel, so you can view it there. If you found it useful, and if you think anybody else could find this useful, please feel free to share it with them. But really, we appreciate you taking the time and tuning in. A bunch of great questions. With that, any last thoughts, Chris and Alexis?
Not for me.
I guess the only thing is, yeah, we're really excited about what you guys might build, and please do get in touch so we can help you make it a reality.
That's great. Thanks everyone for joining. Hope you all are staying safe and take care.
All right. Yes, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.